No, I think it's mine because
try.
I'm in I can hear you fine.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, your voice is like, you know, that robotic
Yeah, my
thing
internet
that
is
happens.
very shaky. Oh, I sound like a robot. Still sound like a robot?
A little bit.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think there's anything I can do. It's just the internet.
Okay. I just saw a notification that we're streaming live, so should we start? Well, I guess it's 1 minute. Wait a minute. Start with kirtan.
So he said, yeah,
Okay.
we can start.
All right. So kirtan.
Would you like to lead a kirtan?
Yeah, you lead kirtan because I don't have like cartels or anything here with me. I'll just mute myself.
Okay, I have cartels.
All right, go for it. Just like 5 minutes or so.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale
Toronto, you went silent. All right, I guess I'll do the kirtan then. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Reshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nitya Gora Haribo, 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 Nitya Gora Haribo. Jai Gaur Premanandi, Haribo. So Sharanti, you're back with us. Would you like to?
I'm back. Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. I surprisingly get better service in the woods.
Okay. Whatever it takes.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving class today. It's a really nice topic. So I want to go ahead and introduce Prabhupāda-priya, the speaker. Prabhupāda-priya-devī dāsī has been a full-time devotee in ISKCON since 1992. She is a certified Bhakti Shastri teacher, a Bhakti Vaibhava graduate, and is currently enrolled in the Bhaktivedanta course with VIHE, as well as a GBC college for zonal supervisor training. After living and teaching in the holy dhams of Vrindavan and Mayapur for 20 years, she now resides at Krishna House in Gainesville, where she serves as educational director. She is author of Rising Above It All, Higher Consciousness, Happier Life, an introductory book aimed at outreach preaching, and has just sent her second book to the publishers. She is known for giving wonderful classes, which are both philosophically deep and personally relevant.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess without any further ado, we'll begin. The topic here is, let's see here. Topic is about empowerment. Balancing our objective powerlessness with our potential for empowerment. So I'm hoping that Krishna will empower me to give this class. Let's do the invocation and we'll say Mangalacharanam as well to get the blessings of the Lord in disciplic succession. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai. So thank you all very much for being here and for welcoming me. I'm very honored to be here with you this evening, and I hope that you'll all please give me your blessings that I can say something which is uplifting and inspiring and pleasing to Krishna. So, yeah. So we're going to address the topic of powerlessness and empowerment in Krishna's service. What's it say here? Somebody sent a message. It says, around 5:45. Pause for questions. Okay, fine. Powerlessness and empowerment. So we're going to start this topic from before the beginning of creation. We'll look at some of the verses here from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapters 8 and 9, where Lord Brahma has just basically come into existence at the very beginning of the manifestation of this universe, or before the beginning of it, let's say. So at that time, the Lord had a desire to create this material cosmic manifestation. And out of that desire, as some of you may know about this story of how creation took place in our tradition, the navel, from his navel grew a lotus flower, and then Lord Brahma appeared from the mind of the Lord. He took birth from the mind of the Lord through that lotus flower. So he found himself sitting there on the top of a lotus flower. And because he was born from the Lord's desire to create the universe, he had this inclination to create. He had a sense of his purpose, but he had absolutely no idea how he was going to do it. And he tried to look around to get some kind of a sense of bearings, but there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. It was darkness, and the only thing he could see was the causal ocean, basically the ocean of devastation, the waters of devastation, which were raging, and it just kind of made him more fearful. So then he thought, okay, let me try to figure this out. Let me try to find the source of my existence and the source of the cause of all of this. So he thought, to get to the beginning, I'll go back the way I came. So he started trying to climb back down the stem of the lotus flower, which he had appeared from. And he went down, 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 and he couldn't find anything down there. He kept going. And then finally he came, the only thing that he met down there was a representation of the time factor, which causes fear of death. So that wasn't very helpful. That just made him even more bewildered and fearful of the situation. So I thought, okay, by my own efforts, I'm completely powerless to figure this out, to know who I am, where I've come from, what's going on here, and what I'm supposed to do. So then from within, the Lord inspired him to meditate. He had this sense that he really needed to connect with a source of empowerment outside of himself. So feeling powerlessness, he needed to receive empowerment from another source. So then, inspired by the super soul, he sat down and he began to meditate in a prayerful mood on the Lord. At that time, he didn't even know who the Lord was, because he hadn't seen the Lord. And but he just figured that there must be a cause to all this. And so he meditated on the Lord as the supreme cause, the cause of all causes. And that was basically the beginning of Lord Brahma's devotional service, because meditating on the Lord, praying to the Lord, thinking of the Lord, these are all processes of devotional service by which we can connect to the Lord and please him. And Krishna's very pleased just when we remember him, just by thinking about him, he becomes really happy. And when Krishna's pleased with us, then he reciprocates. And the way he reciprocates is to reveal himself. So this is what happened. The Lord revealed himself to Lord Brahma after many years, after hundreds of Lord Brahma's years of meditation. So that's like millions and billions of our years in our calculation. So the way he revealed him was the Lord revealed himself from within the heart of Brahma. And he also showed the source of the lotus flower, which was Mahavishnu lying there in the causal ocean. And he also revealed himself as the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the cowherd boy, with playing his flute, with his peacock feather. And on the basis of that revelation, then Lord Brahma was able to compose the Brahma Samhita, which glorifies the Lord Krishna. Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. So at that time, when the Lord, basically Brahma was face to face with Lord Vishnu, then Lord Vishnu invested him with the knowledge, with the power, and with the passion to create the material universe. So then Lord Brahma went from being totally clueless to being completely empowered to know who he was, who the Lord was, what his relationship was, what his purpose was, how to do it, and he had the power to do it. So, but at the same time, it's very interesting because he was still feeling, in one sense, powerless. And this is the paradox that we're going to address. It's kind of like the theme of the class this evening about how a Vaishnava can be completely empowered, can feel completely empowered, and simultaneously feel powerless. And this is actually the art of empowerment in Krishna consciousness. And it's actually the key to empowerment in Krishna consciousness is this feeling of powerlessness. So then Lord Brahma, he's face to face with the Lord. So he begins to speak to the Lord, glorifying his supreme position and expressing gratitude for his kindness and for his mercy. And the way that he's still feeling powerless is that he knows very well that whatever power he has is from the Lord. It's come from the Lord. So this is very important, that he's just borrowing the power from the Lord. It doesn't really belong to him. And this is so important, and Brahma understands the importance of this consciousness, that he prays to the Lord to never forget that actually he's powerless and his empowerment is from the Lord. So I want to read a verse here from the third canto. This is 3:9-23. I'll read the translation here. So this is Lord Brahma speaking to Lord Vishnu. No. Yeah, Lord Brahma is speaking. So he says, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, is always the benefactor of the surrendered souls. His activities are always enacted through his internal potency, Rama, or the goddess of fortune. I pray only to engage in his service in the creation of the material world. And I pray that I not be materially affected by my works, for thus I may be able to give up the false prestige of being the creator. So I like this prayer a lot because Brahma's, he's feeling empowered that now I'm going to create the universe. I'm going to, engineer the whole universe and all the bodies for the living entities and all the structures and the mechanisms and everything that's going to make the universe take shape. But he's anticipating that doing such a great thing is going to make him proud. And so he doesn't want to become proud. He wants to always remember that actually whatever he's doing is due to the Lord's mercy. By the Lord's grace, he's able to do it. So I'll read Prabhupada's purport here. Prabhupada writes, in the matter of material creation, manifestation, and destruction, there are three incarnations of the material modes of nature, Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshvara. But the Lord's incarnation as Vishnu, in his internal potency, is the supreme energy for the total activities. Brahma, who is only an assistant in the modes of creation, wanted to remain in his actual position as an instrument of the Lord, instead of becoming puffed up by the false prestige of thinking himself the creator. That is the way of becoming dear to the Supreme Lord and receiving his benediction. Foolish men want to take credit for all creations made by them, but intelligent persons know very well that not a blade of grass can move without the will of the Lord. Thus, all the credit for wonderful creations must go to him. By spiritual consciousness only can one be free from the contamination of material affection and receive the benedictions offered by the Lord. So the main point here is that Brahma understood that he was simply acting as an instrument of the Lord. And he didn't want to fall into the illusion of thinking that he was the doer, that he was the creator, and become puffed up. And Prabhupada said that this is how we become dear to the Lord. So as devotees, aspiring devotees, we all want to become dear to the Lord. And Prabhupada said, this is the way of becoming dear to the Lord and receiving his benediction, just by acting as the Lord's instrument and accepting the blessings of the Lord and the empowerment of the Lord, but remembering that that power is not ours, but it's actually the Lord's power. And we're just very fortunate to be connected to him and to be engaged in his service. So, yeah. So this is, because our position really is, 1/10,000th the size of a tip of a hair. Compared to Krishna, we're so tiny. Prabhupada says infinitesimal. In other words, infinite means, like infinitely big, whereas infinitesimal means it's so small that there's no end to the smallness. Infinite means there's no end to the greatness. Infinitesimal means there's no end to the smallness. So we're really like completely minuscule, and very objectively speaking, we're virtually powerless. And we've actually recently, in the past year, we've had a reminder of our powerlessness, with this pandemic, because before we were thinking, yeah, I've got my life under control, I've got a job, I've got this, I've got this routine, and I'm doing things, and things are going on, and then all of a sudden everything just, we all just got plunged into the realm of uncertainty and fear for our lives and for our loved ones, and everything just shut down and locked down. And whereas we used to think that we were free and could do anything and go anywhere, all of a sudden now it's like we couldn't even go to the next door neighbor's house and have a cup of herbal tea with them. So yeah, we realized our powerlessness. And it reminded me of there's a song by Govinda Das, one Vaishnava poet, where he says, Kamala Dalajala Jivana Talamala, that this life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. If the wind comes and shakes the lotus petal, then very easily the drop can just drip off and be gone. So in the same way, this whole materialistic civilization is just tottering, it's on this very shaky foundation that a tiny microscopic virus, coronavirus, can cause the whole thing to come screeching to a halt, and that there's nothing anybody can really do about it. So this has been a big wake-up call for all of us, for everyone all over the world, to realize just how powerless we are, and how things are happening not really by our arrangement, but by the arrangement of the Lord, and that we just have to accept that. So this has been really good for us, and it's been an opportunity for a lot of us to go deeper in our Krishna consciousness. Here at Krishna House, we've had a lot of devotees, like an unprecedented number of devotees, new people joining our temple, joining the ashram during the last 8 months that it's been. So it's been really exciting. Everyone has to come quarantine, and then they can join the regular functions and services. So it's been really exciting. But yeah, it has been a wake-up call, and for some people it's not been a pleasant one. And then I was thinking how in terms of having this realization of our powerlessness, and how whatever abilities, whatever intelligence or strength we have is really coming from Krishna. There's also an example of this with Arjuna in the Mahabharata. So most of you know, you're familiar with Arjuna from the Bhagavad Gita, that although he was a trained Kshatriya and he was one of the most formidable warriors on the planet, but at the beginning of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he was feeling very disempowered. Although he was a powerful person, he was feeling disempowered. And that was due to his material consciousness, basically, because he was identifying with his body, with his family members, and he was thinking in terms of mundane morals and ethics and social considerations, all these sort of material considerations. And that state of mind, that materialistic kind of state of mind, had that disempowering effect. It really sort of, he was paralyzed with grief. He just slumped down in his chariot, dropped his Gandiva bow on the ground, and he said, Krishna, I can't do it. I can't fight. I'm supposed to fight. I know it's my duty, but he was just feeling, dejected and depressed. And he turned to Krishna and he said, I'm so confused. I'm feeling so weak. I just, please help me. I don't know what to do. So then there, as you know, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and he told him just this, that yes, on your own, you can't do it. You really can't do it on your own. But if you take shelter of me, then I will empower you. At the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says that if whoever takes shelter, that by taking shelter of me, by my grace, you'll be able to cross over all the obstacles of conditional life, not just the battle, but your life. You'll be able to perfect your spiritual life. And one of the themes that he keeps reminding Arjuna of through the Bhagavad Gita is to not act out of false pride. Don't think that you're the doer, right? Kartaham iti manyate, that only people who are foolish and bewildered by false ego think themselves the doer. And he tells him, just be my instrument. So it's the same thing that Brahma prayed for. He just wanted to be the instrument. And he has understood that by presenting himself as the, helpless instrument of the Lord and just depending on the Lord's mercy, that's the way that he was going to be empowered. So that's what Arjuna did. And as a result of that, millions of people were killed there in that battle, but Arjuna and his brothers, the Pandavas, emerged victorious. And then an interesting thing happened to prove that it was Krishna's empowerment. At the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, when all was said and done, then they stopped the chariot, and Arjuna told Krishna, okay, Krishna, you can step down from the chariot. And then Krishna said, no, you better get off first. So then Arjuna's like, okay. So he got off, and Krishna was just standing there waiting for him to get off. Then after Arjuna was safely there on the ground, a little distance away, then as soon as Krishna stepped off the chariot, the whole chariot just burnt to ashes, and everybody was looking like in amazement. And Arjuna said, what happened? And then he said that so many celestial weapons had been fired at this chariot that it should have been all the potential energy from those celestial weapons was just being kept at bay by Krishna's presence. And as soon as Krishna left, then the whole thing was gone. So yeah, if it wasn't for Krishna there, Arjuna wouldn't have a chariot to fight with, and it would have been very hard for him to win the battle. So it shows that it was all due to Krishna's grace. And then later, another wake-up call that Arjuna had was when Krishna departed from the planet. Then some of Krishna's wives were being attacked by a gang of cowherd men. And Arjuna was like the hero of the Battle of Kurukshetra. He was like this trained warrior. He was like undefeatable. And so he thought, all right, I'm going to go in there and save the day and, drive away this bunch of farmers basically with their cow herding sticks and save Krishna's wives. So Arjuna went in there expecting that it was going to be an easy job. And to his surprise, he couldn't beat them. He was defeated by the cowherd men, and he couldn't save the wives of Krishna. So then he realized again that without Krishna, without remembering Krishna and taking shelter of Krishna, and Krishna was gone from the planet, and he was again powerless. So yeah, he mentions that that's mentioned in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. So yeah, this is our situation, that we're all fundamentally more or less powerless on our own. And so in this world full of complexities, we're bound to feel confused and discouraged. But at the same time, we shouldn't wallow in these kinds of feelings that, oh, I'm so helpless, I'm so useless. Sometimes devotees, we can really get down on ourselves and think, I can't do anything, I'm just a fallen soul and all this. So we shouldn't wallow in our powerlessness, but we should use it as an impetus to connect to the source of power, to connect to Krishna. Just like any electrical appliance, it only works if you plug it in. You have to plug it into the electrical outlet, which is connected to a series of wires which lead to the powerhouse. So if you don't plug your refrigerator in, then you're not going to be able to use it for the purpose for which it was made. You may be able to use it for another purpose. You could use it as a cupboard to store things in or something like that, but it's kind of a waste of a refrigerator. You could just use just a wooden box or something, a trunk or something for something like that. So in the same way, we can live our lives unplugged from Krishna, but we're not going to be able to achieve the purpose for which we are here on this planet in that way. We may be able to eke out some kind of pathetic sort of existence, accumulate some money, some possessions, eat, drink, have a few friends or whatever. But all of those things are just going to be lost at the end. All of our possessions, all of our material relationships, they're all just doomed to end. And so we're not really achieving our purpose. If we really want to achieve our full potential, to achieve the ultimate goal of this human form of life, then we need to connect to Krishna. And connecting to Krishna is something it's not just a one-off thing, and that's kind of what Arjuna realized, that Arjuna had surrendered to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Before the battle, he had surrendered to Krishna, and he'd been empowered by Krishna, and he fought for Krishna, and by Krishna's grace, he won the battle. But then later, he learned that surrender is not just what you do one time, and then after that, you're just, sort of off and running, and you can do whatever you want after that. But we have to go on surrendering to Krishna day after day, moment after moment. Every moment we have to be thinking that Krishna, it's only by your grace, as the saying goes, but for the grace of God, go I. They say that in England. It's a common saying. So yeah, every moment, everything that we can do, the fact that we can walk, that we can speak, that we can, really do anything. Krishna says, I am the ability in man. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. I'm the strength of the strong. So we need to be constantly praying to the Lord and to the disciplic succession for spiritual strength. And this was the mood of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He wrote a song called Oh Hey Vaishnava Thakur. And there's this beautiful lines. I love that song. It's one of my favorite songs. He says, Ekaki amara nahi payabala harinam sankirtane So that means that ekaki means alone, by myself. I have no strength, nahi paya bala. I have no strength to chant the holy names of Krishna. Harinam Sankirtan. I just can't do it. And then he says, Tumi kripa kori shraddha binduriya deho Krishna namadane. He says that, so therefore, please bless me by giving me just one drop, shraddha binduriya, a drop of faith, so that I can obtain the great treasure of the holy name of Krishna, Krishna Nama Dhane. And then he goes on to say, Krishna se tomara, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakati ache. Amito kangala, Krishna Krishna boli, daitava pache pache. So he says, Krishna se tomar, Krishna is yours. Krishna dite paro, you can give him to others because such is your power. Tomara shakati ache, you have that shakti. You have the shakti to give Krishna to others. And here I am with no strength at all. Ekakiyam nahi paya bala. I don't have the strength to chant the holy name. But you have this power. You have Krishna and you can give him to me. So then he says, Amito Kangala, I'm just a fallen soul. I'm just so wretched. And therefore, Krishna, Krishna Boli, Daitava Pache Pache. I'm just running behind you, yelling, Krishna, Krishna, please give me Krishna. So it's very sweet. And of course, we know that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a pure devotee. He's a Nitya Siddha personality from the spiritual world. But still, he's teaching us by his example, by his heartfelt prayers, that alone we don't have the strength even to do sadhana bhakti. It's only by the grace of the Vaishnavas, of our spiritual masters and of other Vaishnavas, Srila Prabhupada and our disciplic succession, who connect us to Krishna. And the mercy of Krishna is flowing down through the parampara. So really, to do anything nicely in spiritual life, to chant attentively, to realize that we're not these bodies, to understand our relationship with Krishna and how to act in this world, to render any little service. What to speak of, reviving ISKCON as a strong, dynamic spiritual movement in this country. We really need to be strongly connected to Krishna and pray for that empowerment, which comes through the disciplic succession. And of course, another example of this is Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya. He's the perfect example of everything for us in spiritual life. So we see that when Srila Prabhupada was setting out to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, materially speaking, he was powerless. He was old. He was 69 years old. So he wasn't, physically strong, and he wasn't in the peak of health. He had no money. He had no support from his family, no support from his god brothers, the Gaudiya Mat, none of them. His spiritual master had left the world, so he wasn't there to ask questions, to ask for guidance directly, at least. He was setting out for America, but he didn't know anyone in America. He didn't know at all what life in America would be like. He didn't even know if there was going to be food. He was kind of preparing for the worst, bringing some, puffed rice and some potatoes and things, thinking that, well, at least I'll survive until I can get the next ship back if all they have over there is meat and whatever. He really didn't know. So, then, and at the same time, although he had faith in the order of his spiritual master, he considered himself powerless to carry out that order. And like Lord Brahma had that incredible task of creation. And Srila Prabhupada had this incredible task of spreading Krishna consciousness in the Western countries. And so the Lord Brahma, he absorbed himself in meditation and prayer for empowerment. And Srila Prabhupada did the same thing. And Srila
Hare Krishna, Prabhupāda-priya, you're muted. We can't hear you.
There we go. All right. Yeah. So like Lord Brahma, Srila Prabhupada understood the need to pray for empowerment. And so he went to a special place, Advaita Bhavan, the home of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur in West Bengal. And it's a temple that's kind of a little, it's not a very, very much visited temple. It's sort of out of the way, and there's no, well, there is a small temple. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada went to that temple and he just sat in the back corner. And every day, for many days, he just sat there and chanted. He just chanted Hare Krishna from morning to evening. And then he would go home and come back again and just chant from morning to evening. Go home, come back. And he was doing like that, just chanting and praying and calling out to Advaita Acharya for empowerment to be able to follow his spiritual master's instruction. And after some time of that, the pujari from that temple, he came over to Srila Prabhupada, and he was curious. He had never seen Srila Prabhupada before, and all of a sudden he saw him and he was just so absorbed and so intensely, chanting. And he said, Maharaj, what is, I'm curious, please tell me about yourself and what your purpose is. And then Srila Prabhupada told him, my Guru Maharaj has given me an impossible task. That's what he said, an impossible task. And then he spoke a little bit about what the instruction was and what his plans were for attempting to fulfill the order. And then shortly after that, he went, and the pujari didn't see him for, basically, I think he didn't see him again. And then many years later, maybe in the 80s or early 90s, some devotees, some ISKCON devotees from the West went back to that temple, and they were, taking darshan there. And the pujari, who was very old at this time, he came over and he saw these, white-skinned Vaishnavas, and he said, who are you and where have you come from? And then they were explaining that we're from America, we're from Europe, and we're just coming to visit Parikram. And then he said, oh, can I know more about it? So the devotees took, they had some books with them. They had a Back to Godhead magazine with them. They pulled it out of the bag and then they showed, and then he turned to the back and there was a picture of Srila Prabhupada there on the back. And the pujari was like practically moved to tears. He was like, Bhaktivedanta Swami, you did it. He was, and then he told the devotees the story, that your spiritual master was here and he was praying and he was chanting and he was praying and he was chanting and he was so absorbed and he was so intensely begging for the mercy of Advaita Acharya, because it was Advaita Acharya that called Lord Chaitanya to come down, and he did that out of compassion for, humanity at that time. The society was so degraded already at that time. And he said, nobody can save these people. They're just so far gone. Only if the Lord himself descends, then they'll have some hope. So that was also the mood of Srila Prabhupada, that Western society was so degraded. And he was bringing the teachings of Lord Chaitanya over to America. He's bringing the holy names, the same message that Lord Chaitanya brought, he was carrying with him. Gauravani Pracharane, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane, that he was so kindly teaching the message of Lord Chaitanya in order to deliver the Western countries full of impersonalism and voidism. So that was Srila Prabhupada's mission, and it's very exemplary how he prayed for empowerment. And then after his very arduous journey, he arrived in Boston Harbor. And again, he expresses his powerlessness, there's that famous poem that he wrote, Bengali poem, Markine Bhagavat Dharma, in which he really, he's calling out to the Lord. And he says, "Oh Lord, how will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own." He says, "If you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like." So it's very sweet. Srila Prabhupada really explicitly expresses his powerlessness. He says, I am powerless to do so on my own. I have no power to make them understand your message. Only you can do it. So please, again, it's the same thing. Use me as your instrument. Use me as your puppet for fulfilling your will, and just make me dance as you like. And although Srila Prabhupada felt himself unqualified, and he expresses that, but he had confidence in the Lord's empowerment. He had confidence that with the instruction of the spiritual master comes the ability to fulfill that instruction. And we see that also in the beginning when it was, I think, 1965. He just had a handful of disciples at that time. They weren't even disciples. They weren't initiated yet. They were like 4 or 5 devotees. And he called them together to sign, the document for incorporating ISKCON. And then after that, he was in a park and he was sitting on the bench. And then this random man came and sat next to him on the bench, and they started talking. And Prabhupada said, "Yes, I registered an international society today." I don't know if it was a day, but he said he has an international society. And the man was like, "Oh, really? What does that entail?" And he said, "Well, we have many temples, we have farms, we have schools, we have restaurants, we're all over the world." And then he says, "Only time is separating us." But Prabhupada was so confident that the Lord would fulfill the order of his spiritual master through him if he just remained with a pure service attitude, that the Lord would use him as an instrument, because Krishna wanted it to be done. He knew that his spiritual master wanted it to be done. Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted it to be done. And if the spiritual master wants it to be done, that means it's because Krishna wants it to be done. Therefore, anybody who's willing to make an effort to achieve the plan of the Lord, then certainly Krishna is going to empower. Yeah. I mean, the Lord is willing to empower anyone. And we see how not only Srila Prabhupada, but also the followers of Srila Prabhupada were very much empowered. It just kind of spilled over. It just kind of flowed down the disciplic succession. And these young boys and girls that joined Prabhupada, some of them were just teenagers or in their early 20s, and they were going to countries that they'd never gone to before, where they didn't speak the language sometimes. And they were, making devotees and opening centers and having Ratha Yatras and all these things, doing unimaginable things that even they themselves would never have thought possible for them to achieve. So like that, the same potential for empowerment is there for us today. We just need to plug into it. And I was thinking how, I was thinking back to the days when I joined ISKCON. And for many of us have the same experience, that when you first come to Krishna consciousness, it's kind of disorienting, because it's so different. Even if in material life we were very competent people and, we were very successful, when you come to Krishna consciousness, it's kind of like you become a baby again, isn't it? It's like you don't know what to eat, you don't know how to eat, you don't know how to take care of yourself in terms of personal hygiene. You thought that you were clean, but now it's like, whoa, that. So yeah. And then our whole value system is sometimes turned upside down. So we sometimes get the feeling as new devotees that we just can't do anything right, or that we're offending people all the time, and we're just like a a black spot on the white cloth of the sadhu sangha, you know. Everybody else is such a nice devotee and we're just like hopeless. So it can be discouraging, but in another sense it's good because it makes us aware of the fact of our objective powerlessness and that and our potential to be empowered, because Krishna consciousness doesn't depend on material education, skills, experiences. So even though we may have had all of those things, it doesn't necessarily translate into spiritual value, because spiritual advancement depends on mercy. I'll just read a little thing here from another verse from Canto 3, Chapter 9. This is also Lord Brahma's offering. The Lord is speaking to Brahma. And he's saying that the prayers that you've chanted and the penances that you've undergone and your faith in me, all of these are my causeless mercy. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, when a living entity desires to serve the Lord in transcendental loving service, the Lord helps the devotee in so many ways, as the Chaitya Guru or the spiritual master within. And thus the devotee can perform many wonderful activities beyond material estimation. By the mercy of the Lord, even a layman can compose prayers of the highest spiritual perfection. Such spiritual perfection is not limited by material qualifications, but is developed by dint of one's sincere endeavor to render transcendental service. And Prabhupada says, voluntary endeavor is the only qualification for spiritual perfection. Material acquisitions of wealth or education are not considered. So I thought this was a really nice point, that our spiritual advancement really depends on Krishna's mercy, and that our job is simply to connect to this flow of mercy, which originates from Krishna and which flows down the disciplic succession. So yeah, the way to connect to Krishna is through those who are connected to Krishna. That means Krishna's devotees. And then by the association of devotees, everything else comes. Devotees teach us all the different ways to connect to Krishna. So the devotees teach us to chant the holy names. And the chanting of Hare Krishna establishes a very strong and immediate connection, which gives us a sense of joy, which gives us that empowerment. And because the holy name is not different from Krishna, and especially in the age of Kali, it's like the process. Lord Chaitanya says, Kali Kali Nama Rupa Krishna Avatar, that in the age of Kali, Krishna has descended in the form of the holy name. And then the devotees also connect us to Krishna through the scriptures. That in any ISKCON temple, there's Bhagavatam class, there's Bhagavad Gita reading. And so we also feel that happiness and that empowerment through discussions of Krishna Katha, because of Krishna's presence in that situation. And Krishna says that I'm not, he says, I'm not in Vaikuntha, nor am I in the hearts of the yogis, but I'm there, I'm present wherever two or more devotees have assembled together to discuss my glories. And then another way that devotees connect us to Krishna is through service. Devotees are really good at engaging people in service. If you show up at the temple, or even if you don't, they'll try to figure out some way to, get you involved. And not only because they want free labor, although they might want that too, but because it's good for us. They want us to be happy. The devotees want Krishna to recognize us, because when we do some service, Krishna recognizes us for that, and he smiles at us, and he becomes inclined to shower us with blessings and to empower us. And Krishna wants to empower us. Like I was saying, he wants us to be powerful devotees. He wants us to expand Krishna consciousness in powerful ways. So why is that not happening? Why are we maybe not feeling so empowered? So one reason is because Krishna is not going to do anything that might harm our spiritual advancement. So if there's a chance that we're going to become proud due to power that we're given, then he's going to withhold that, because he doesn't want that the power goes to our heads and we start thinking that we're wonderful, that we're better than others, and that could lead to, you know, offenses or mistreating others. And so in that case, Krishna is going to be like, I'll just wait a little longer till the person develops a little more humility and then I'll empower them. So yeah, again, following the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, we need to develop the humility. And I really feel like that's the key to empowerment. It is humility. And that goes back to Lord Brahma, that Lord Brahma was actually praying, let me not become proud. Let me remain humble. And let me not take credit for the creating this world. Let me always remember that it's by your power that I could do it. And Srila Prabhupada had the same mood, that he never accepted credit for his achievements. If we look in the preface of the Bhagavad Gita, he writes that some of the parents of my disciples expressed their gratitude by thanking me or crediting me with starting this movement in America. But Srila Prabhupada says that if I have any, first he says actually this movement was started long ago by Lord Krishna himself, and it's coming down to human society through disciplic succession. And he says, if I have any credit in this connection, it's due to my spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he says, if I have any credit in the matter of presenting Bhagavad Gita, it's only that I've presented it as it is without changing anything. And then in another place, I think it was on the Vyasa Puja of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada actually gives the credit for spreading the movement to his disciples. He says that all of you, I can't take credit for this, all of you have done the work. My spiritual master has sent you to spread this movement, like that. And he said, he said he feels indebted to his disciples for doing that. So Srila Prabhupada was really so humble. And although it may seem to be contradictory, a truly humble person is feels simultaneously powerless and unlimitedly powerful. So how is that? Because they think, on my own, I'm useless, but by the mercy of the Lord and the devotees, I can do anything. And so we just need to follow in the footsteps of these great devotees, great Vaishnavas, like Lord Brahma, and like Arjuna, and like Srila Prabhupada, and many others, and simply pray to be the Lord's instrument, and always remember that whatever we achieve by the Lord's mercy is his power and not our own. Okay, it's past 5:45. I better stop there. And then if you guys have any questions or comments, then please fire away.
Thank you so much for your class.
Thank you.
If anybody has questions, you can type them in the chat box or you can read them out loud if you like, and just make sure to unmute everybody. So, with feeling powerless,
You're breaking up, Jayanti.
oh, okay, from Blasa.
Back to the board.
Back to the point. Actually, I was reminded when you were talking about how, speaking of forest, I was thinking about Dhruva Maharaj, about how you were saying about how Krishna, he'll make you humble, or he'll wait for you to become humble before he gives you something. And so I remember it, because Dhruva, he went into the forest and he was like really upset and he was really proud. And it was when he seen Krishna, he was like, oh, I'm praying for broken glass and you're like the diamond. Like, why would I even do that? But then he ended up having to have the kingdom and everything that he had wished for. But it was only because he was able to actually handle it, because he was only wanting it out of spite, actually, before. that actually wasn't my question, but when you said forest, I thought of that, and it reminded me, because it reminded me of a comment that of when you were saying that made me think of that pastime. But the question I had was about cultivating empowerment within powerlessness. You were also saying something about, you mentioned humility as being one of them. So before you mentioned humility, I was thinking about fearlessness, but fearlessness seems like, I mean, even sometimes the demigods get fearful, but it just doesn't seem like it's something that can sustain itself. It seems like a lower level of understanding God, understanding Krishna. But can gratitude also lead one to feeling empowered in powerlessness?
Yes, definitely. I mean, gratitude is a big part of it. It's kind of gratitude and humility, they sort of go hand in hand, because gratitude is all about realizing, recognizing and appreciating all that we've been given. So so being grateful to the Lord for the power that he does give us, for the abilities that he gives us, and for the association he gives us, for the service, and all these things. And that helps us to be humble, because when we gratitude means that we're basically thanking somebody for, we're not just claiming it to be mine, but we're saying, no, it's due to this person's mercy that I have this great opportunity, or I have this great situation or service or whatever.
Thank you.
Good point. Thank you very much. Anything else?
Hare Krishna, just a thank you for such a beautiful class and so many beautiful points about humility and how we need to surrender in order to be empowered to serve Krishna in big ways. So thank you so very much. You made so many beautiful points.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope it came clear. I was thinking that it's not something that just, it's sort of counterintuitive. A lot of things in Krishna consciousness are actually counterintuitive to our normal, mundane mindset. Like the idea that that sense pleasure is a cause of misery, and the way to actually be happy is to not try to be, is to try to make someone else happy.
Yeah.
Actually, or through austerity that we become, through austerity and sacrifice that we actually become happy, and not through indulgence and selfishness. So this is a similar thing, that the way to become powerful is to recognize our powerlessness. And it's very different from, nowadays it's kind of popular, all these life coaches and sort of like therapists sort of things that they do. They tell you, they try to like boost your self-esteem, by telling you, just believe that you're powerful, just believe that you are amazing, and all these things. And it's actually, that doesn't actually help, because when we talk about humility, it's very different from low self-esteem. Low self-esteem means you really just, you think that you're like, trash or whatever, and you can't do anything. But humility is not that. Humility is that, I am very small, but by Krishna's help, I can do unlimited things. I can do things that before coming to Krishna consciousness were unimaginable. I can do things I can do the impossible. Why? Because Krishna can do the impossible. And if I allow him, then Krishna can do the impossible through me. But he'll only do it if we're humble, and if we realize that he's doing it. So it's very different from low self-esteem. And we don't have to believe that we're wonderful and, you know, try to like look in the mirror and say nice things to ourselves to feel good about ourselves. We just have to say nice things to Krishna. We just have to glorify Krishna and understand Krishna's unlimited potencies and how and connect with those. That's it. It's not about us. It's about Krishna. And it's about surrendering to Krishna and letting Krishna do his thing, use us as his instruments. And it's really magical.
Wow. Thank you for that. I wanted to also mention how I really love that you deciphered what humility is and that low self-esteem, because sometimes low self-esteem, it looks and sounds like it's under the facade of humility, but actually it's a trick of the mind to debilitate us from actually progressing towards our true nature, which is actually a part and parcel of Krishna, which if Krishna is really amazing, then we're part of that amazing. So we're not as lowly as our mind tries to trick us to be. It's just this thing that the mind does so that we can't become like motionless and we don't move forward towards surrendering or doing anything. And it's just like another identification kind of. It's funny that this was a part of the class, because I was just talking to my friend Aditya in Vrindavan, and we were talking about how she described it as I forgot how she worded it, but she was talking about how the low self-esteem and self-loathing, how it's under the facade of humility actually, but it's actually not the same thing at all.
It's totally different. It's basically Maya. It's an illusion. It's actually a total illusion, because we're not worthless. You know, if we're actually Krishna conscious, and if we actually saw ourselves the way Krishna sees us, then we would see that even though we're tiny, even though we're infinitesimal, but still our value, we have infinite value in Krishna's eyes. That Krishna values each and every one of us as the unique individuals that we are. And that's why he wants to connect to us, right? For every one step that we take, Krishna takes 10 steps towards us, Prabhupada said. And Krishna, the whole reason of this creation, that, you know, Krishna empowered Brahma to create the universe, is just to bring us to our senses so that we can get back to him. And Krishna provides so many ways to access him so that we can get back to him. So yeah, Krishna really loves us, and he values us, and he wants us to be become his pure devotees again. I mean, we are, but we need to uncover that through his service. And like I said, he's just dying to empower us. He's like, there's so few devotees on this planet, and there's so many people that need association with devotees, that need association with pure devotees who can deliver the message, you know, purely, and inspire them to become devotees. So Krishna really wants each and every one of us to go out there and do that in a powerful way. But we just have to qualify ourselves by, you know, cultivating this humility, and also, you know, connecting in the ways that I mentioned, through you know, good japa, through studying the scriptures, through positive association, inspiring association with devotees, and just through making an effort to go out and meet people, be involved in outreach, like that.
Oh, thank you. What you just said now made me appreciate another thing that you're bringing up about Arjuna, and how Arjuna, you know, he took that position to fight actually. And I think sometimes we get in a misunderstanding that humility means that we have to stay small, but actually sometimes in humility we have to take that big position, but we give the credit to Krishna, you know. It's not like I'm the president, I became the president because I'm the best president, but it's like I'm the president and Krishna let me be the president. That's why I'm the president, and I just have to do a nice presidential job for Krishna, you know. So in that way.
Yeah, and have confidence that Krishna will do that. That, okay, somehow or other, although I don't see myself as being very qualified, but somehow or other Krishna gave me this position of being the president, or being, you know, the leader, or whatever. And so because he put me in that position, I know that he's going to support me in that position, just like, you know, a good leader will. You know, if you're, let's say you're the GBC for a zone, and then you select somebody to be the temple president of one of the main temples in that zone. So as a GBC, you're going to support that temple president. You know, you're going to be calling them up. How are things going? Do you need any help? If they have any problem, you're right there to, you know, help them through it. And so Krishna does that. He'll put us in a position, and then he'll support us. And of course, Krishna's support is, you know, infallible support. Krishna's that's one of his things. He said one should remember me as the support person. He's our main fan. He's always cheering us on and providing us with whatever we lack. He preserves what we have, and he carries what we lack so that we can do what we need to do. Sharanti, wow, you have so many nice things to say here.
Oh, you're bringing them out of me. I'm very grateful. It's nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Yeah, such a long time.
Yeah, it's good to hear you're still at Krishna House supporting the devotees there and helping them.
I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, it's really Krishna's mercy. It's so nice.
Yeah, so if no one has any more questions or comments, on behalf of ISKCON New York, I'd like to thank you for joining us and giving us your wisdom and your association. Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming at the beginning and staying till the end.
Hare Krishna, blessed and Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.